Ladies and gentlemen, it's that time again to spread the holiday cheer with more work on the Let's Dev Holiday Special. Now, last episode we got fancy while learning to work with the 3D displays and also started working on the enemies for our game. Today we're continuing the addition of new enemies as we work on the mini bosses as well as focus on a few other surprises. So let's not waste any more time and get to work. The first of the bosses I wanted to start working on was a giant enemy whose only attack is to stomp on the player. Looking like a big ol' earthworm here, this mini boss was first on my list due to not being confident with how GameMaker would handle the Z-axis related conditionals. This mini boss's attacks are pretty simple. They follow the player around much like other enemies, but movement is done via large hops through the air. If the mini boss lands on the player, it's game over, and at the same time any smaller enemies caught under this stompy fiend is also destroyed. This was achieved through a surprisingly simple sequence. Creating a timed pattern through an alarm, I was able to have the mini boss jump in the air by altering its Z position. The result is a pretty convincing jump effect. As for how to tell if the player's bullets can reach the mini boss or if the player / other enemies are under the stomp as it happens, it was again surprisingly simple to pull off. If the mini boss's Z position was below a certain height, that meant anything below it was getting stomped, or it was at least capable of taking damage. Moving on, I started working on the second mini boss. This mini boss would circle the play area, occasionally dropping cymbal monkeys to slow down the player. And majority of this mini boss's time is spent out of reach of the player. Using very similar code as the train, I also had this flying mini boss circle the play area on a pre-drawn path. Something I spent a lot of time on trying was to figure out a way to telegraph where this mini boss was going to drop its next monkey. But after way too much time spent on it, I decided to shelve the mini boss for now and return with a different approach. Now, in between videos, I'd also been working on the art for the game. I don't have much commentary-wise to say about it, other than I tried to emulate some of that weird, not-so-fluid animation of the classics, and I also tried to use color as an emphasis of game mechanics. So for example, reds mean immediate danger, yellows are less immediate dangers, and blues / lighter tones are mild dangers. Also, adding actual graphics to the game gave me new perspective on, well, perspective. I had to reposition the camera just to compensate. And with a chunk of the new art added to the game and temporary bits now replaced with actual assets, I decided to start working on some extra flair for the game. I got to adding some death effects to the enemies. I created a debris item packed with random variables ranging from sprite to size to speed and direction, and to make the debris more personal to each enemy type, I gave it the chance to recolor itself to key colors shared with the corpse that they'd be flying from. For example, the teddy bears will sometimes explode with not only white fluff, but also brown fluff, which makes for a pretty gruesome effect. Now, once I had my fill of exploding toys, I moved on to another mini boss idea I had. As evident by the art, it is a glove enemy, and indeed, much like the train and flying mini boss, this one too is on a set path. The difference here, however, is the direction and speed at which it moves is completely random. On top of that, this mini boss's attack is a game changer. Now, I wanted this boss to have two states, an invulnerable movement state and a vulnerable attack state. The movement state would have it circle the area at random before stopping to do its actual attack. The attack I had in mind was to suck the player towards it. While harmless on its own, the intent is to hopefully create situations where players are inadvertently sucked towards greater threats. But this posed an issue. How do I move the player towards the mini-boss without disrupting their rhythm? Luckily, my movement code served up a pretty easy solution. Now, as a quick refresher, movement is done via literal directional inputs. Pressing W, A, S, or D adds motion in their respective directions, but it's all relative. This means adding a suck effect simply required me to add a suck check to the movement code, and if it's active, add additional direction to the player's movement in the direction of the suck source. And to top it all off, I added a particle effect that creates colored snow, which actually took a lot longer to code than the actual attack itself. But there we have it, another episode done, a ton of new stuff added, and even more stuff to come. Next time we'll be tackling the player's weapons and more. So once again, stay tuned every Saturday for new episodes of the Let's Dev Holiday Special as we make our way to Christmas Day, where not only will I be releasing the finale of this series, but also the Peppermint Gauntlet game itself. So if you like this video or you enjoy Let's Dev in general, be sure to hit that like button. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. And as always, leave your thoughts on the project in the comment section below. I always love to hear from you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.